Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, Gertrude. Thank you so much. My name is Cheri Bergeron. I am based in Austin, Texas. And my journey is really one of striving for motherhood. I, like so many women, grew up believing that I could be anything. And when I graduated from college, I pursued my career with incredible vigor and had a tremendous amount of success. Where I started to struggle was in my idea of family. And I had the belief that there was a very traditional notion of how you got a family. You met the right person, you got married, and children just naturally came along. Well, that didn't really work for me. And so over the next 10 years, I spent a lot of time in the struggle to become a mother. And I have written a book about that. I'm sharing my experience in a book called Mission Motherhood. And I've also created a nonprofit to help women and empower women on their journey to motherhood on their own terms.
So I was wanting you to give us your backstory, your journey into motherhood. What was that like?
It was a very difficult one. I started to get serious about motherhood in my mid 30s. And I really believed, I think, as many women, that medical science will have our backs if we need it, and that we have all the time in the world to be able to pursue our personal ambitions before we become mothers. That really did not end up being the situation for me when I was in my mid 30s and I did get married. Frankly, I decided to settle because my biological clock was ticking so loudly. I found someone who ticked most of the boxes I thought that would be acceptable. And I thought, well, then the babies are just going to come. And I turned 37 and 38 and 39, and the babies weren't coming. And when I turned 40, I went and sought fertility help. And at that point, I was shown a chart that showed me how bleak my chances were for pregnancy at 40. They were hovered around right around 10%. And that was devastating to me. 10% probability of having a child. And so I was likely to need medical help.
Wow. Now that would have been very, very challenging. So, what are the myths that you think society perpetuates about fertility and timing?
Well, I thought, one, that things had to follow this natural progression and that that was the way that one earned the right to motherhood. And then I was faced with this idea that if I followed that hard-coded rule, I might not become a mother at all. And that just was not negotiable for me. And so I really had to pursue alternative approaches to motherhood. And what that meant for me was IVF. It also involved donors, egg
Mm.
and sperm donors at various points. And so I went through this journey. But what I learned in that process was there are many journeys, many avenues to become mothers. And it's really each woman's personal journey to find the children that belong to them.
Hmm. So, how did your career influence or delay your family planning?
Well, when we have career success and we feel that financial independence, we feel that self determination, it just has a life of its own. And for so many of us, I think there isn't a natural point at which to pause and say, I'm going to pursue motherhood now. And so that timing gets further and further into the future. And for me, that's really what happened, that my timeline really got much more extended, and there was no natural time for me to step back. So
Mm,
when I really started to seek my fertility treatments and became pregnant is when I made a conscious decision to stop pursuing the highest position and the most money in order to make room for motherhood.
mm. So, what was the turning point when you chose motherhood on your own terms?
I had been let down quite a bit by the man that I settled for, and we went through some experiences. We actually encountered some loss, which is very common in IVF.
Yeah.
And through some of those stressful times, we realized that we really were not compatible. And we had created embryos together, but he had expressed that if we weren't together, that he was not interested in being a part of any child's life. And so for me, that was kind of the breaking point to say that I was going to do this on my own because we weren't aligned, and because I couldn't imagine having a child on this earth and not being involved in their life. And so
Yeah.
that was really the moment that I decided to kind of do motherhood on my own.
Hmm. So, how did you cope with the emotional toll of IVF and loss?
Well, for a long time, I buried it, to be
Mm,
honest, because I was so focused on becoming a mother. So it was not until after I had had my children that I really realized, it was actually right during COVID, when I had just finished all of my trauma. And then 3 months later, the world went into trauma.
yeah.
And I was sitting there believing that it was possible that I might lose the rest of the people who mattered to me. We had no vaccines. I lived with my 77-year-old mother, and I had children that didn't have any protection, and I started to have anxiety attacks. I started to have panic
Mm,
attacks, and I think that was my wake up call, that I had years and years of buried trauma that I had to deal with if I was going to be the mother that my children deserved.
man. Now, you wrote a book. What inspired you to write this book? What's the title? And how has it been received so far?
Well, there was more to my story than just having the children. I actually was involved in a landmark custody battle here in the state of Texas, where that Mr. Prince Convenient actually tried to become the legal father of my son, who I had independently using an anonymous sperm donor after we had become legally separated. But because we were still married, it was years down the road, he actually sued me to try to become his legal father. And that was a crisis point for me because I'd been through so much already. And
Mm,
I really, in that moment, cried out to God. And I was thinking, why is this happening to me? With everything that I have gone through, why is this happening to me? And the answer that came to me very clearly was that you're going through this so you can help other women achieve
mm,
their dreams of motherhood. And that was a turning point for me. I turned my pain into purpose, and I was committed to sharing my experiences so that I could help other women make more informed choices than I did.
mm. Wow. Now, that would have been stressful. Absolutely stressful. So, what role did your custody battle play in pushing your story into the limelight?
Well, it did receive news coverage. You never really want to think that your divorce is going to make the news.
Mm,
Unfortunately, mine did. I'm not a celebrity. I'm no one special, but this was a very significant issue because I'm not the only woman who is potentially at risk. Any
mhm.
woman who has a child with an anonymous sperm donor who is still technically married, the same thing could happen to them because there are these laws called presumed father laws that assume that if you are married, then the man is the father. But this really does not keep pace with modern family dynamics, realities, fertility, and family building. And so one of the things I did in addition to writing the book is creating a nonprofit called Cheri's Choice. And one of my objectives there is to get the laws changed so that women, the presumption, if you're not together in any meaningful way, you're not living together, you're not, uh, you know, having relations and things like that, is that there's a presumption that he's not the father. And so this is some of the work that I need to do.
Wow, groundbreaking stuff. So, why did you believe fertility education is essential for young women?
Because I was very ignorant to what my options were. And granted, when I was in my 30s, things like egg freezing and IVF were not as sophisticated as they are today. So maybe there weren't quite as many options, but I was really ignorant about my fertility and my biology. And so when I think about feminism and I think about female empowerment, it isn't just about our careers. It's about trying to have all the things that we want in life and all the best things we want in life. We can't always have them on our exact time frame. And so I think that is where it's so important to have fertility education, simply the way we have sex education in our earlier years. You have it before you need it. I really believe that young women who are in their 20s need information about their fertility so they can make informed choices about the
Mm,
kind of life and the kind of family that they want to have.
that is so true. It's good to be prepared.
It
So,
requires a plan for sure.
so how has motherhood changed your sense of purpose and identity?
Well, despite the fact that I had had a lot of success in my career, I
Hmm.
came to a realization, I would say in my 30s, that at the end of the day, it really wasn't going to leave any kind of lasting mark on the world. It wasn't
Hmm.
going to impact society in any kind of significant way. And so while it felt good to have those kinds of accomplishments and be compensated well, it
Yeah.
felt very hollow to me. And
Mm,
so becoming a mother became something that I believed was an act of selflessness rather than self absorption, and
yeah.
something that I could do that would leave a lasting legacy. And so for me, motherhood has changed my outlook on so many things.
Mm,
For the key to happiness from my perspective is giving versus taking. And so motherhood has opened up so many avenues for happiness and satisfaction for me that I never really felt in my career.
oh, that is so beautiful. So, what kind of support systems does your nonprofit aim to offer?
Well, one of those big things is education. So
Hmm.
going out to universities and creating almost a fertility 101 kind of conversation with women so that when they're thinking about their future and they're thinking about their career, they're also thinking about their family priorities. That's one big piece. And then there are women who are like me, who the fairy tale didn't happen and they are wondering whether they should settle like I did, or
Hmm.
whether they should pursue motherhood on their own, or whether they should adopt, or they should become a foster parent, or they should use a surrogate. There is so much information. And
Wow.
so my nonprofit seeks to distill a lot of that for women and provide one on one counseling and also community workshops so women can work through these issues and really understand what their values are, what their priorities are, and evaluate what path to motherhood makes the most sense for them.
Mm.
And then finally, community support, because infertility is such an isolating thing. It strikes at
Um,
the core of what we see, how we see ourselves as women, and our fundamental ability to have children. And so becomes a real personal crisis. And the process of having a child when you have infertility issues is filled with pain and disappointment. And it can be just incredibly isolating. So having that community of people who are going along that journey, I think is so important.
wow. So, if someone feels like time is running out, what should they do first?
Well, everybody gets that feeling a little bit at different times than others. I would say that if you are in your early 30s and you're
Mhm.
feeling that pressure of time, my recommendation would be to freeze your eggs if having biological children is very important to you. If you're older than that and you've had difficulty getting pregnant, or perhaps you've had loss of pregnancies, I recommend getting a physical assessment and to understand what is the cause of that. It can be hormonal, it can be
Mm.
anatomy, it can be all different kinds of things. And so I would recommend doing those tests. And then, you know, pursuing the various options, understanding your values and what seems like the right path for you. I firmly believe that the children that you're meant to have are there, and you have to know yourself and follow the path till you find them.
That is beautiful. So, what was the hardest part of your story to share, and why did you share it anyway?
There were a couple very difficult moments. I think losing a child is one of the most difficult things that anyone can go through. And I've lost not one child, but two. And it, it, it destroys your world. I mean, it is all of your hopes and dreams. And I felt it so important because it's one of the hardest things we can go through, but it's so important to know that you're not alone in that kind of
Mm.
loss. And the things that you need to do to grieve and try to heal from that kind of loss is also so important. So I just really didn't want to sugarcoat what infertility looks like. Um,
Mhm.
Another big reason is that my son lived for 19 days, and we found out that he had a genetic defect that was actually from my estranged husband. And the fertility clinic had not tested him. Many of you know, if you've gone through fertility, that women, they routinely test the woman because they believe, which is true, that eggs degrade over time. And so they test the quality of eggs. But the
Right.
majority of time, they don't test the man unless there's some known genetic issue. Well, my ex-husband had an undiagnosed genetic defect, and this resulted in the loss of two children. So one of my imperatives to women is, if you are going through IVF, please insist upon getting the man a full genetic workup, because that would have cost $3,000, and my son suffered, and the bills were $750,000. So, this is just one of the areas where our fertility medicine needs to evolve and needs to, better protect families.
Yeah.
And I had to share that information because I don't want any other families to suffer.
Yeah. So, what pushback or criticism have you faced, and how did you respond to it?
Well, there are some who believe that I didn't deserve to become a mother. There's some who believe that because I pursued my career and I lived a life that was maybe somewhat enviable, and I let time go by, that if it didn't happen naturally for me, then I was undeserving of it. A lot of
Mm.
those people are staunchly religious people who believe that way. There were members of my own family. who believed that way. And that was incredibly painful to me. I believe that having a child, no matter what journey you go on, is a journey of love. And I believe that God is in all of those journeys. And I believe that God was rejoicing in the children that I received. So that's one big piece. Other people don't believe in IVF. They think IVF is immoral. Even though the majority, I think, of Americans do believe in IVF,
Mm,
religious organizations are not very supportive of it, and only when it is between a married couple. And so, me going through things as a single mother by choice, that's another area where there's been resistance. Again, I am one of the most dedicated mothers. I cherish my children and I'm raising great children. So I don't accept that criticism, and I don't accept that I have to be married to have the family that I dream about.
mm. So, what values drive your platform? You're empowering so many women with a space where they can be loved, supported, and cared for. What are the values that drive your work?
Well, I think this idea of a legacy of love is one of the biggest things that,
Mm,
for me, being a mother has transformed my life. And I feel a personal happiness from being able to give to my children. And I want every woman who has that desire and believes that it is their purpose to be able to achieve it. And so, my whole intention, I measure my success, in fact, in babies. That's kind of my core metric that I use,
mm,
is how many new babies are in the world as a result of my work. But it's really the idea of giving back and leaving a legacy of loving families, due to the journey that I have shared and the help that my organization can provide.
oh, I love it. Now, if there was a 20, 30-year-old listening to this podcast right now, what do you want women in their 20s and 30s to know that you didn't know?
Yes. Well, if you're in your 20s, I think that the idea that your fertility is finite
Mm,
and that it requires planning. So, just the way you're planning your career, think about what kind of family you want, and know that you don't have to be constrained by a one size fits all fairy tale for your life. There are many different options, and my recommendation would be, don't settle for the wrong person, because you don't want to raise children with that person anyway. So wait for love to find you in its own time. And if that's not aligned with children, know that you could do this on your own. And I think the same for women in your 30s. I would say, what is the legacy that you truly want to leave? And while work may be fulfilling and bring a lot of things, is that at the end of the day going to meet your needs? If so, wonderful. If
mm.
not, then it's time to really consider what actions you're going to take to make your dreams of family come true. And there are many avenues to take and a lot of support for that. So I would just encourage you and listen to your gut and follow that path to find your children.
I love it. My last two questions are a bit of a thought experiment. In the first one, I'm going to teleport you back to the younger you. You could go back and have a conversation with this young woman who was going out into the world, forging a life of success through her career. If you could go back and give her three nuggets of wisdom, just in general about life itself, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be based on what life has taught you up until this point?
That's really a thought provoking question. You always ask the best questions. I think the first thing would be, heal yourself first. Many of us have trauma from our childhood, and sometimes that trauma can keep us from truly uh, being ready to be in the right kind of relationship. So I always think it starts with us to heal ourselves and our own wounds so that we would be the right person in a relationship. And then I think the next thing I would say is, what kind of legacy do you really want to leave when you're done with this life? What are your priorities, and know your priorities? And then the third thing I would say is, don't miss out on motherhood. Motherhood is the most amazing journey that I feel like a woman can take, and you don't want to miss this. So make sure that you make decisions today that are going to allow you to fulfill that dream in the future.
Absolutely wonderful. That is awesome. And what are the takeaways that women can get by reading your book?
Well, in some ways, I think I hope as women read it, it really is written like a girlfriend to girlfriend kind of conversation. And I'm very raw and transparent about everything that I went through. So my guess is that it will impact you emotionally. But I think that is really just meant to encourage you to make plans as early as you can and to really evaluate what you want so that you can avoid some of the missteps that I made. I think knowledge is really power there. And so I think that is one of the greatest things that you could possibly do for yourself. The other thing is just to understand there's no one right way to become a mother. That is the biggest takeaway. Your story and your journey to motherhood will be as unique as your fingerprint. And it really is a journey of faith, in my opinion. And so, combining the knowledge and the belief in your purpose as a mother, I believe you can accomplish it.
Fantastic. Last question is futuristic, and I'm going to teleport you into the future.
Oh, again.
We are going to go and meet the 90-year-old you this
Oh,
time. She's sitting in her rocking chair. Maybe she's on a dance floor surrounded by her children and her grandchildren. If I could teleport you into the future to meet this wise woman who has led you to this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her? And I'll tell you why I like to ask people this question, Cheri. A lot of women don't realize that the wise woman is already in them.
yeah.
She's that quiet voice that whispers, do it, go left, go right, say yes, say no. But we don't really trust her. We don't listen to her. We don't tune into her. What will you say to your wise woman when you finally meet her?
Well, I think I will say thank you for being with me all along and for guiding me on this path. Thank you for showing me that every quality that helped me be successful in my career were the exact things that I needed to become the mother that I was meant to be. And thank you for showing me the love of the people around me. Thank you for showing me the love of my mother as a great role model and of all the people that were put into my path so that I could achieve my purpose. I think the biggest thing is just profound gratitude for all of the experiences that I've gone through, because despite all of the pain and suffering, I know that these were the things that helped me leave a legacy for other people. So it's really just comes down to gratitude and love.
I absolutely love it. Yeah, I have a little game that I play in that I talk to her. I play with the energy of who I am becoming. There are days when I get stuck on something and I don't know what to do next. I go into my meditation and prayers at night and I ask her, so what is the next step? And I'll wake up the next morning, I'm in the shower and I have those light bulb moments and I know exactly how to execute to take the next step. But we need to trust ourselves as women that we do have all the answers. They are within, but we
I
look
agree
how
with that. Yeah, I
else.
think we actually have to look at the young, the inner child of us. What do you need? And the elder in us, which is wise, and what can I learn, really?
Time is an illusion. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with our community today, Cheri. It's absolutely inspiring, a topic that needs to be discussed and talked about, the dangers, the things that are out there that you have to be aware of when you go on this journey. So thank you for being an example of the possibility.
It's been
Really.
an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories and experiences to empower you, to energize you, to help you get from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are going through that infertility journey and you're needing a community that can support you, Cheri has presented an opportunity for you not to do it alone. So do reach out. I had her website at the bottom of the screen. It doesn't have to be difficult. There are people out there who have gone through the challenge who can support and guide you as well. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Cheri, keep up the good fight. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.